Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we disappear for 4 months on hiatus and then come back to review a show.
But I don't want to.
We have to. It's kind of in the contract. Anyways, this is the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows don't have the best pilot episode, and giving that second chance might just change your mind.
It might not also, but normally it might. And here we do that for you, let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot, Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this time will be Tales of Alethrion. Fuck, it's ingrained like Stockholm Syndrome. I didn't want to do that. It just came out. It happened.
What part came out?
The whole, like, that intro thing was disturbing. I did not do that. That was not of my own will. Like, you said it, and it just bleh.
Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. I managed to fight it off that time, but that was painful. Oh, I don't like that.
It's called brainwashing.
That's a bad time.
Anyways, yes, it's been 4 months since our last post. We took some time off.
A nice little break. Gotta watch shows without having to think about them.
Without having to critically think about them, which is why I watched the entirety of the OC.
That's why I watched nothing new. Not a thing.
Because that would have meant committing to watching more than 2 episodes?
Yeah, I haven't broken that habit. I tried. I've tried so hard. Well, it hasn't happened.
Anyways, this is our anniversary episode.
Which, you know, we like to try to do something special.
We're running out of special things to do.
Yeah.
That said, we found something!
Woo! Thank you, random YouTube algorithm.
It's called Tales of Alethrion.
And it has no dialogue. Oh, fuck. What have we done to ourselves?
I mean, technically it has efforts, which count as...
Well, they're not listed as dialogue. They're not a written dialogue. They are instructions, but they're not technically considered a dialogue. A dialogue is speaking.
Does laughing not count as...
No, it doesn't fall into a dialogue. They are character instructions, generally.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, a show with no dialogue. It's just pictures. So now we're going to do something very difficult on a podcast and just describe pictures to you because that's what the show is.
Yeah. So...
This is great audio content.
Yeah. So, Tales of Alethrion is a YouTube series that has been backed by Kickstarters.
Yeah, it's got a board game, a card game, a soft role-playing game.
Yeah, that seems all correct. And it is made by...
Sunbeast, right?
It is made by Sun Creature.
I was very close.
You were quite close, yeah.
And this first episode, entitled The First Hero, is from 2015.
And when we get to it, our second episode is from 6 years after that.
Not 6 years.
It's 3 years after that.
3 years after that.
Yeah.
2018. Because it's a show made on the internet. And,
funded by Patreons and people willing to back it on Kickstarter. So, you know.
I don't know if it's funded by Patreon.
I mean, it thanks patrons.
I thought you said Patreon. My bad.
Yeah, I mean, it might be Patreon, but it does thank patrons at least. And I think they say something about a Patreon page somewhere on their YouTube home screen.
So, this first episode opens on a figure, either asleep or dead, on a throne.
It opens with drippy drop sounds. Like, the moment we hit the Sun Creature logo, we start to hear a dripping sound.
Oh, okay.
Because while it doesn't have dialogue, it does have a soundscape.
Except for that episode that you watched while muted, and you were like, why doesn't this have any sound?
Yeah. It wasn't an episode, it was like a trailer for the idea of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it's weird that this has no sound, but I was like, it's a test animation, it's fine.
Turns out he just muted the TV.
It doesn't have a lot of sounds, it had a few though.
But, so it starts with a dripping sound and then opens on a figure, sleeping or dead, on a throne.
Yeah.
And this figure is very tightly clasping a chest shut.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to know whether they're alive or dead. They are either way very emaciated.
Mm-hmm. And this is all inside of a very Parthenion-looking building.
Yeah.
Because we start at the outside of the building and zoom into the...
And we zoom in through a circular opening and then, like, pass through it.
Mm-hmm.
And this figure is sitting on that throne, surrounded by treasure, holding a chest.
Yep. And then we get a title screen. And it says, The Reward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the name of the episode. That's not the name of the show.
I think it's a subtitle to the entire series. Tales of Alethrion, The Reward is what I've seen it listed as in some of their thumbnails and stuff. But, like, the title of the YouTube video is Tales of Alethrion, episode 01, The First Hero. So, I don't know if it's a larger part part of an idea that they have for an entire world, and then the reward is a set story inside of that.
Well, either way, after it says the reward, a dragon flies by.
Yeah, we get some nice deep choiry chants.
And then we cut to a man, and he's sitting, and he's taking offerings from the people of the town, and there's this big, dark, black fire behind him, kind of foreboding.
Everyone in the line, because there's a line forming to walk up to this man, is carrying some form of gold, and he also has a nice little sign next to him with a little, like, bear trap with an X through it, so he doesn't want to be tricked.
And so, after they give him enough gold, he then
Super Saiyans into the sky.
I said Superman, but you know.
He has a golden aura around
Fair
him.
enough.
Super Saiyan. Look, Goku could beat Superman. Yeah, see, you look so upset because you know I'm right.
I don't even know anymore. Honestly, if we want to get into the side tangent, I don't even know anymore. I haven't kept up with Dragon Ball since, like, the start of the multiverse tournament.
Yeah.
I don't know how strong Goku gets. What I do know is before Dragon Ball Super, Goku stands 0 chance against Superman.
Look, I mean, so there's an argument technically based on the scales of the universe that because Dragon Ball has a set amount of universes, whereas technically DC has an infinite amount of universes, and the Book of Fate technically contains every step of all the universes, and thus is infinity. That's all we need for a power scale. Goku's power scale is capped by the amount of universes he has, all that potential energy of his universes.
But Superman can only pick up half of infinity.
Yeah, only half of infinity.
He has to have Wonder Woman help pick the other half. It's somebody else too, but
yeah, you want to who smacks him down? A guy in a monk robe who just carries the book on an everyday occasion.
I also think the Book of Infinity's weight is probably like a magical correlation, not like actually infinite.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Thor's hammer kind of infinite.
Yeah, if you're worthy, because I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
But the only person's worthy is the person who carries the book, Destiny. Anyways.
I think up until Dragon Ball Super, Superman 100-0 that fight, Superman every time.
Yeah. So this guy that we've seen sitting on a chest until he gets all of his gold, who has giant fucking eyebrows and a giant fucking mustache.
Sometimes, depending on what he's doing with his face,
Yep.
the eyebrows and mustache look like one piece of facial hair.
Especially if he like squints while smiling, because then they go up and look like they can join. He also has like a little, like very poofy bun. And so as far as the art style of the show goes, it gives me some Korgoth the Barbarian vibes.
That's fair.
As far as the character art goes, but all of the backgrounds are like, for the most part, very painterly, watercolorscapes almost.
Yeah, for me, all the character designs and like the monster design and like the art of the things in the world, not the world itself, because the world itself is a backdrop. But like all the stuff that's moving looks very much like Scott Falco's work to me, like his stuff he did on Sig and Tessa.
Fair. I would also say a lot of proportions are exaggerated. People are kind of stretched out somewhat as far as we see them.
Like this guy who I'm just going to refer to as the hero.
Yeah.
Although we do eventually learn his name, but
not through context of...
Actually, yeah, within the 2 episodes, there's no way to know what his name is.
Yeah, there's a possibility, but we only absolutely know his name because of looking up, trying to figure out what this fucking even was because before we even decided to watch this, I was just like, what the fuck is this? So I looked it up.
So the character that we're going to call the hero, if you're okay with that as his name, I thought he was the first hero.
That would be my assumption.
I don't think so anymore.
No, I definitely don't think he is. But the first episode frames him as the first hero.
Yeah, but he has like a trapezoidal body where like his body is big on top and then slender to the waist.
Discounting his limbs, which are just long.
Yeah.
And that's true for a lot of people. A lot of people are a bit more stretched. Then we see some other denizens of this world later who aren't necessarily human, but it just exaggerates things because at the end of this, we also see a guy who's just super muscly, like exaggeratedly muscly. So before the hero flies off to fight his dragon, though, I would also say it's almost like some Adventure Time art or like Infinity Train as well. Just like it's a simplified cartoon style, but they do add heavy amounts of detail like both of those shows do on occasion, but it keeps the almost cartoon, very like Western cartoon base and then adds things on top of it. Yeah.
And as I was saying, before he flies off, we do get this scene of like in his imagination, gold raining down around him and like his eyes get replaced, not with gold coins, but like the pupil has like gold in it now.
We just see a gold opaque reflection in his eyes. Yeah. But he flies up, punches this, I guess it's more of a worm because it doesn't have 2 legs or it doesn't have any legs. Technically it has like little hands on its wings.
You making the distinction between what a dragon is It's a dragon.
Yeah, sorry. But then he just one punches it, it falls down. And then when he stands up and cheers, everyone's super happy. And that kind of establishes, yay, he's the hero here.
Something you mentioned when we first watched this. Mm-hmm. The hero's character design, if it was in a different art style, just looks like a character out of One Piece.
Yeah.
Like, the hero would fit so well in with the Straw Hat crew from a visual standpoint that nobody would question it.
Like, I think part of it's the body shape. And then just like the stylization of the hair very much makes my brain think One Piece.
So after he is being celebrated by the people, he poses with like 2 models and people clap for him. We cut to a busy market.
Yep. And we see a woman wandering around. There's not really anything super unique about her character design. She's just wearing like a plain dress and a headscarf. Mm-hmm. And she's just walking around looking at the wares, having a fun time.
And she's interacting with people and like people positively respond to her.
Yes, she seems to be a personable person.
She's showing people this map she's working on and like telling kids about the map and like telling stories. I call her the explorer, but we could also refer to her as the map maker because that actually probably fits her character better.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So
from the get-go, my notes.
The map maker, yeah, we'll call her that for this because, again, show has no dialogue. We don't have character names. But these characters also really feel like archetypes rather than like strictly individual characters, despite the fact that they have a very like specific story for these characters.
Yeah, which I think is part of what makes a non-dialogue show actually kind of interesting because it takes these characters that you can only kind of just, the only thing you can do is kind of view them as their tropes or characterizations that you would apply to the people who do these actions, especially in like a fantasy world, right? Mm-hmm. So it heavily relies upon all of your own like knowledge or belief you're bringing into the show about who these types of characters are.
So anyways, when Mapmaker is shopping, she's trying on earrings and she looks down the aisle of this open air mall.
Yeah, the headway.
And the hero is leaning up against a pole.
And we get hyper-realistic gross sound art from the early 2000s and I love it.
And he winks at her and she makes a sound of disgust and then walks away.
Yeah, because we get his face up close, hyper-realistic, it's fantastic. Was not expecting it, which is kind of the point of that.
So from there, we kind of cut to what I can only describe as a rave.
A fantasy Eurobeat rave.
And I had the genius idea for my next D&D character.
Yeah.
Probably not. I'll probably have a new idea by the time I actually build a new D&D character.
Yeah, but just a bard who is a idol.
Yeah.
Fantasy idol.
Yeah. And depending on what level we start as, take the folk hero background, be this hero of this area, and then like instead of like killing beasts and stuff, you parlay your successful former business of killing beasts into being an idol.
Yeah, like when we say idol almost, we mean it because it's like a rave. We have lights going off, blues, reds. It has a bass beat going for the music.
And the hero's on stage dancing.
He's on stage dancing, and we see some fangirls holding up signs with hearts with his head in them. Mm-hmm. And his dance moves are just like hip thrusts for the most part, except for like twice when he like strikes a running pose almost. I don't know dance, okay? I know classical dance. I don't know modern dance. I'm refined. That's a fucking lie. But everything's fine on stage. He's having fun until he sees Mapmaker in the audience, dancing with a guy, having a good time.
And he kind of butts in, spins that guy out of the way, and dances at her.
Yeah.
Like, that's the best way to say it.
With more hip thrusts again.
If any listeners are aficionados of AEW, it's kind of like Daniel Garcia's hip thrusts.
Fair enough, I guess.
It's for a very small audience.
But yeah, she laughs at him and then mimics him and sticks her tongue out at him, mocking him.
And then they both laugh. And because he can find himself stupid and funny, that endears him to her.
Yeah.
And they spend the rest of the night together.
Yeah, they just hang out, talking, having fun.
Do they talk? How do you know they talk?
I assume they talk. You're right. I don't know that they do.
Fair
you know
enough.
what? Fucking maybe in this world, Bumblebee, like, interaction is how they're doing it. So they've had an entire conversation on the dance floor, okay? I don't know.
They spend the entire night together, and the morning hits with the two of them sitting out in this field, watching the sunrise as she tells stories.
And then we cut to the hero sitting at a table in the city, just, like, rolling some liquid around in a cup.
No, he's very hungover.
I mean, he looks kind of depressed, actually.
He's hungover.
Yeah, fair. And then we see a bag thrown at him, and she just holds up a map and is like, let's go.
So
you're coming with me on my journeys.
They both go, and this ensues a series of hijinks of the two of them just traveling together.
We see some weird monsters, like a turtle with a weird plume on its back that when you pull, it turns into a fucking helicopter, basically.
Yeah.
And he shows, like, a clear romantic interest in her from the get-go, even on their adventures, and she seems to slowly warm up to him after realizing, oh, he's just a dumb big child.
Yeah, like, because while she's out here, like, studying things and learning about the world.
Mapping shit.
He's just, like, his engagement with things is, can I kill it? Or what does that do? Like he doesn't have like...
There's a scene where he's stomping really heavily on the ground and causing magma vents to flare up, and it's great.
Which sounds insane, but then again, you have to remember this dude one-shot a dragon with his fist.
He jumped hundreds of feet into the sky.
He flew.
Yeah, and punched a dragon, and then survived the fall.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, we kind of see a montage of them hanging out, and it continues after this bit, but they do, I guess, become a couple, officially kind of in the scene, in the most petty fucking way. Like, we see them grow closer in the montage, but then we see a couple sitting on a bench, and they shyly kiss each other, and these two observe it, and they just look at them, look at each other, and then just the grossest fucking makeout scene. They're just like, oh, we can one-up that. And it's funny, but it's also gross.
Yeah.
Like not horribly gross, but like, if you saw that in public, it would be uncomfortable.
So we continue with these hijinks, them like just exploring, Mapmaker putting more detail into her map that she's making.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as a couple, they get their portrait done.
Yep.
But also, during this entire hijinks montage, where the two of them are getting closer together, and they're like bonding as a couple, we get like references to other heroes in the land.
Yeah, we see one kill a monster as they're passing, and then we see the gold and the glory and the wealth.
And like
that's all superimposed over the hero.
This is distracting the hero from this relationship. Like he cares more about the pursuit of like fame and money than he does about Mapmaker.
And we see like slowly there's a repetitiveness added to the days where like they'll do something fun, but he gets distracted by something's price, or he sees something of value, or they're trying to have dinner and people are like, hey, go kill this monster.
Yeah, there's a bounty, or like there's a bounty board, and instead of like going and exploring with Mapmaker, he stops at the bounty board and gets like left behind a little bit and has to catch up because he's distracted by all of these.
Yeah, and then there's a scene where they're laying in bed and he's literally just passed out, so happy, snoozing, holding a big bag of, I assume, money and a chest. His chest from before. Yeah.
And so like they start fighting more and more, and eventually this leads to a fight where like they're at a fork in the road and Mapmaker wants to go this way, and this way is like very autonomous and seasonal and warm.
Yes.
And then the hero's like, no, we need to go this way, and it's cold,
Insert
dark.
creepy woods from every animated feature ever.
And in doing so, they come across a monster attacking a town,
mm-hmm.
and Hero goes to rush, and Mapmaker grabs his hand, and she's like, no. We don't.
It's more than that. He grins so fucking ecstatic and rubs his hands together like an old miser.
And pulls his treasure chest out,
yeah.
and goes to run to like not fight the monster, but like get paid to fight the monster. He doesn't care about killing the monster. He cares about the money.
So she grabs his hand and stops him, and we kind of hold on that scene for a moment where she's just like staring plaintively into his eyes, and he eventually just rips his hand away and runs into the town.
And like, I don't think this specifically is the breakup.
No, that happens.
I think Mapmaker was still like willing to give Hero the chance.
But then we cut to black, and then we show back up in the city.
Monster's dead.
And people are running up tossing their offerings in, when one of them trips and out of their bag spills potato.
And Hero doesn't want potatoes. Hero wants gold. And he's really mad that this guy is trying to pass potatoes off as gold.
No. That guy gave him gold. Fucking Idaho gold, baby.
Are you saying Idaho exists in the world of Alethrion?
Yes. He just saved Idaho. He saved the entire like state of Idaho. Now he's got that sweet, sweet Idaho gold, baby. Potatoes.
I don't think so. That doesn't make any sense. We've seen the world map. There is no Idaho.
I'm pretty sure I remember something saying wasteland. That sounds like Idaho.
Anyways, Hero gets very upset about these potatoes that are not gold.
Yeah, he goes to draw his sword and just cut down these people.
And he's stopped by Mapmaker interposing herself between him and the people he's attempting to kill.
Yeah.
So he swings wildly and destroys some stuff.
Yeah, he destroys part of the city with a sword swing.
And then Mapmaker turns her back on him and walks off.
Yeah.
And Hero throws a tantrum.
Yeah, he does.
But this is the moment where Hero and Mapmaker are officially dunsies.
Yeah. Though there was a great shot where they stare each other down, and the way the light hits him makes his eyes take on a reddish tint, and right before she walks away, she hands him the map she's been drawing.
Oh, she doesn't hand it to him. She like shoves it into his chest.
Yeah.
And then she turns away and walks off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of Mapmaker in this episode. So Hero goes about killing monsters, being idolized, giving the huge amounts of gold that he's been searching for. But the tone of the animation is now much darker.
Yeah, we lose a lot of the more pastel colors we had during their early adventures. Literally, when we took that turn down the right side path, the path of the dark, creepy forest, we have never left that path. The hero seems to never leave that path. He has chosen his path in life. And even when he runs into separations on path later, there is no change. It is all the same environment.
Well, even more than that, when he's celebrated, it's no longer like these colorful celebrations. It's gray and
like beat up, weary, worn people who are like, thank you fucking saved our lives.
And Hero doesn't get like the same enjoyment out of it anymore. He's lost that spark of enjoyment in his life.
And he's making his way towards the weird floaty light in the horizon.
The X on the map.
And he walks past some other adventurers, though honestly I referred to them as mercenaries in my notes because these are all fucking mercenaries.
No, Shovel Knight is not a mercenary. You take that back.
Yes, one of them is Shovel Knight, and he slaughters all three of them, empties their chests, which at this point I am convinced are like chests of holding.
Yeah, also
with all the gold put in them.
It's at this moment where I'm like, is hero the right word? Like, this is the moment, like, when he almost killed peasants because they were giving him potatoes instead of money. That's almost like, are you sure you're a hero?
Yeah, and
like,
then you just walk past three guys having a chat, and you're like...
having a chat and laughing, and like...
wait, they have a chest of holding. I'm gonna slaughter them and take their stuff. When he slaughters them, he takes the helmet of one of them, and when he puts it on, we see his eyes go completely black with a faint ring around the outside. It honestly looks like almost every artistic depiction of a solar eclipse.
It looks like the Ringu.
Yeah. And it was at this point that to me it was obvious. We saw him. He was the first character we saw because they were wearing the same helmet and outfit. He eventually reaches the same Parthenion style building and has glowy steps up, and he drops the map before he starts to walk into it.
And before he walks in, we cut to the inside of the Parthenion-esque building.
Yep, where we see a bunch of glowy people, all of different like builds, and they all have their own color, and they all have a floating symbol above their head of some sort.
And some of them are maybe not like human in shape.
Yeah, like there's one that just has a skull for a head, man.
Then there's one that's big and red and muscly but has no facial features other than a nose and a mouth.
Yeah, it's why I said Adventure Time earlier, and honestly, I'd like to kind of revise that to like more kind of Bravest Warriors, honestly, like just some of the artistic choices, but like that's just because the diversity in character model.
But anyways, well, these beings, who I'm pretty sure are gods, are eating dinner and having a party. In walks the hero, and the gods are like, hey, get out of here. You don't belong here.
And then we cut to the outside, and we just see lights and fire flying out from the building. When we cut back in, there is one god left.
He's got like red shoulder-length hair and has a triangle
above his head.
And the hero just stabs him, murders him.
And now he's standing before the big circle thingy, and he grabs his chest and walks up towards it. And
it's kind of like a veil made of mirrorish liquid.
Yeah, I called it a liquid mirror in my notes because it has a very liquidy feel to it when he touches it, and he kind of passes through it because it catches light to a degree, but when he reaches into it, it gets a silver glow around like where he's walking, a silverlish golden glow, but a shadow like subsumes where he is, but it's not his exact shadow.
And so like, but when he walks through the mirror,
darkness is kind of pulled away from him and stays in the mirror.
And when it snaps away from him, it forms that same ring.
Yep. And then it slowly starts to kind of coalesce into a like more humanoid shaped form, but we don't get to see that finish before he sits down on his throne that he found there.
Yep. And so he sits down on the throne after dropping his chest.
And he looks in the mirror, which is literally like right across from it. And it has now full on coalesced into a shadow version. No, it's not a shadow version of him. It's a full on like almost reflection of him, but like an alternate version of him.
And above its head is floating that ring.
And its eyes have like greenish fire in them. And he's not wearing a shirt or a helmet now for some reason.
Yeah. So I'm going to just summarize how I interpret this real fast.
Yeah.
So my interpretation of this is when he passes through the mirror acts as a filter.
Yeah.
Maybe not a filter. Yeah, a filter is a good cheesecloth. It's cheesecloth for darkness.
Fair.
And it cheesecloths that darkness out of him.
Yeah, kind of just
separates
pulls it out.
His primary vice, greed, into its own incarnation.
Yeah.
And so we get greed incarnated, and not just like his greed, but like the full-on embodiment of greed at this point.
Yeah, it just takes on the form of him because it's the form it knows best.
Yeah, so
I would agree with that interpretation. It's very much what I get from it. And honestly, like the eclipse also vaguely, when tying it to my brain kind of thinks of it like a fully dilated eye. Like it's the classic cartoon thing of like, oh, I see something I want, my eyes grow super big and the iris shrinks and the pupil just dilates. It almost reminds me of that. Like it sees everything and it wants it all.
That's fair. So,
but he sees this and he just looks terrified. So he opens his chest and starts tossing gold out.
Throwing gold away, and he's digging for something, and he finds what he's looking for.
And it's the portrait drawn of him and Mapmaker.
And when he finds this portrait, the greed incarnated version of himself walks over, takes the picture away, and tears it in half and throws it on the ground.
And just bats him away.
And then starts taking the gold that he threw out of the chest and put it back into the chest.
Yeah. And then he's kind of staring over at the greed, and seems to have a realization. So he runs at it and just like grabs the chest and starts like pouring gold out.
Yeah. And so the Greed Incarnation and Hero begin this epic struggle fight within the chambers of the gods.
Yeah, they're like, Greed's trying to get the chest to put gold back in it, and the Hero's just constantly just trying to get as much gold of it out until eventually gets knocked away again and is just laying there in pain for a while.
And the Incarnation of Greed is so much more powerful than the Hero that like there is no hope for him to actually win this fight, but he is trying to.
Yeah.
I think by dumping the gold out, he's trying to like deride himself of greed and take like take away that power of greed.
Yeah. But and like the greed is noticeably inhuman in the fact that it changes its form, like it grows larger, its arms change shape, and like have I want to say kind of like Eldritch Abomination like vibe to them with like the way they move, like they liquefy and change in shape. And so the Hero then when he stands back up, before he stands up, he's laying on the ground and like he's laying on the ground next to the half of the picture that is Mapmaker. Yes.
And he like looks at that, stands up, and rushes to grab the chest again.
So he starts pouring out more gold again, and this causes Greed to like literally change and gets all like, it gets like weirdly fuzzy looking. It looks like an angry giant soot sprite for a moment.
And where its version of his head was just becomes that ring.
Yeah, it gets like a mane-ish kind of vibe to it, and then that's what seems to be the head there.
Yep.
So then when it turns into that form, it knocks the Hero back into a pillar. Then when the Hero stands back up this time, he charges back towards Greed, which is busy shoving gold into it, and he shoves it into the chest and closes it.
Well, he tries to close it, but
yeah,
Greed gets its arms out and turns its arms into spikes and rushes the arms towards Hero, spikes him through the chest up below both shoulders.
Yeah. So he kind of stumbles back into the throne, and he has one hand locked underneath, one hand locked over, and he's slowly gripping his arms together to try to close it. And he gets the will to kind of do that by remembering his times with Mapmaker. And he successfully manages to close it. And then when he goes to get up, he can't. He's assumingly too injured and like too worn out from all of this to physically lift this chest off of him anymore.
I think it's not just that he can't lift the chest up because he's too injured and too tired. I also think
it's kind of a weight of this entire thing that he's become also weighing him down on an emotional level.
Yeah, his greed is just too heavy. He couldn't even fight it, really. All he can do is contain it.
Yep.
And so he continues to have flashbacks and thoughts of Mapmaker up until the end of the episode, I think, right? Like, that's...
Yeah, that's really kind of the end. From there, we pull back out of the mirror and we see the bodies of these dead gods. And then we pull out farther and we see the map that he dropped just outside the Parthenon, and it blows away in the breeze. And then we cut to a very muscly blonde guy in a G-string codpiece
that's made of gold. And he's got long billowing blonde hair,
suntanning himself on a very tall pillar of like ground,
like a plateau.
Yeah. And then the map gets caught in a tree and it blocks the sun from his eyes, and he's trying to tan, so he stands up, uses his sheath to knock it down, grabs it, and then see there's an X, which is a mark that the Hero made before to mark the place of the gods that he ends up. And the guy's just like, yeah, quest, hand raised in there, end of episode.
That's the end of the first episode, the first Hero.
So, thoughts on episode 1 of Tales of Alethrion, the first Hero?
I think Dietrich is the first Hero.
I feel like that's supposed to be a reference to something that I don't get.
No, that's just what I'm calling the blonde guy. His name's Dietrich.
Oh.
He feels like a Dietrich.
I guess. Fair. I don't think he's supposed to be the first Hero.
I mean, who's the first Hero then?
Not even getting into like what I know about the second episode, having watched it. I don't think he's the first Hero, just given the nature that we've seen for the show already, where it sets up this boastful guy as our first hero, and then kind of shows that he's not really a hero.
Yeah, so like Hero can't be the first hero, so the first hero should be in this episode. Who is the first hero? Unless you think Mapmaker is the first hero.
I'm gonna go with Mapmaker then, because the artistic style of the Dietrich, I guess as you're calling him, I don't think matches with the rest of the vibe I've gotten from this entirety of the show. So I feel like he's gonna be the classic trope of, oh no, me? I am a hero. And like Shrek 2 Prince Charming, you're like, yeah, no, I'm great. I'm a fucking coward and I'm not very good at this, but I'm gonna take credit for that I'm not great at.
Unless Hero is the first hero just simply because he traps away greed.
Maybe. Like, that's also arguable. So I think, honestly, between the first tier, we have the option of map maker and who we've been calling hero. It depends on how you interpret it. And I only say map maker because our second episode that we're about to get to, Traveling Deity, mainly focuses on map maker.
So speaking of the second episode, like you said, it's entitled Traveling Deity. It's from 2018, a full 3 years later.
But I mean, we didn't ask the basic first question we normally ask.
Oh, yes.
After the first episode, would you keep watching?
It's been a minute since we did this.
Yeah.
Would I keep watching after the first episode? It's a tough one, right? Because like
all the story there, you're kind of creating the nuance of the narrative yourself.
Well, it's not that so much as like I really like my shows that I'm gonna enjoy as something I could put on and like not like
not pay entirely attention to
a show
because
that,
you can hear it. Yeah, I know you.
A show that gives me permission to look at my phone every now and then,
which this show doesn't because it has no dialogue.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
So like I don't know that I wouldn't watch the rest of it.
It's just that there's kind of that burden of the active watching thing you're not sure you could get past.
If I had smoked some weed and was vegged out on the couch, yeah, 100% I'd watch the show.
But what if I told you the second episode is like half the runtime of the first episode? So instead of like half an hour, it's like 15 minutes.
It's more tempting.
Yeah. Personally, I'd watch the second episode. I like the art style. Like, it's good. I like the background art style as well.
Can I tell you the actual reason why, like the deepest of heart reasons why I have trouble committing myself to a show like this?
Sure, go ahead.
It's because it's a web series.
Yeah, that's also my biggest problem because
who
knows how fucking long it's going to take to continue or if it even will.
And every time I've committed myself to a web series, they just cliffhang and never release another episode.
Hey, no, I know a web series you watched quite a lot of, and it didn't leave you hanging. You just stopped watching.
Yeah, but now it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Except there's comics.
He's talking about Ruby,
comics.
And Ruby has definitively got to a point where it's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I am.
It went way too far off the rails and weird. Not in a good way.
I also don't believe at any point in the last 3 seasons we've been anywhere in the territory of this is the story Monty was telling.
Yeah. The thing they constantly say whenever someone's like, this feels like you didn't have a plan. No. This is Monty's story. It's like, no.
Can we stop dragging the guy's name? He's dead. You don't have to say he made.
You don't got to keep doing it. Don't do this to him. Why you got to do this to the guy?
Well, yeah, no, like I mentioned Sig and Tessa earlier. The art styles for the characters feel similar.
Fair.
But Sig and Tessa just like stopped. And it's not the only web show that I got into and just stopped.
Like, I fucking loved Epithet Erased, and I never getting another season of that. Not because the person doesn't want to make more, but because I started as a web series, and then they got some licensing for, like, Crunchyroll stuff, if I remember correctly. And then that never got picked up, but they don't have the rights to make a show about it anymore.
Capitalism!
They made comics that I can't read because they were Kickstarted, and I was unaware they were Kickstarted, and I could maybe find a copy, but it'd be so expensive. Anyways, episode 2 of Tales of Alethrion.
So, episode 2 opens on a bird in flight,
it does,
in the sky, and a song. I think this is what we call in the business an OP.
Yeah, and we see a bunch of people that I have to assume are going to be main characters, because the only 2 I recognize are Mapmaker and Hero.
And Dietrich.
Oh, yeah, we see Dietrich, as you've called him.
I don't know, there's something just very German about the character.
Look, man, the people I'm most interested in are the, like, cowboy bro and the guy with the red beard, because cowboy bro is, like, aesthetic, and also they're sitting under giant ferns, it looks like, and I just like the vibe I get from it.
I don't know, there is a shot where a boat is sailing across the ocean.
I'm also interested in who I assume on my brain is going to say Pirate Lady.
I don't even care about the Pirate Lady or the guy cohort next to her. But
you care about the boat?
No, the human frog person next to her.
Oh, yeah, there was someone like that. Yeah, you make a fair point.
He's a human frog, and I'm like, tickles my fancy.
Fair enough. Sir Frog is the best character in Chrono Trigger, so.
And one of the worst characters in Disgaea, too.
Yeah. But we actually, after the intro, pick up with the Triangle God, bro.
And he's in a panic.
He stares at the screen, eyes wide in, like, fear, and then he runs through a weird cosmic space with a giant tablet behind him.
And he comes in front of a jar that has that circle that we've been prescribing as, like, the heroes thing, the greed symbol, and it's in a jar.
And then the jar bursts.
But, like, it's not just in the jar. There's also, like, an evil face behind it in the jar. Yeah. And then the jar bursts and it escapes.
So our Triangle God bro pulls out some beard hairs and throws them on the ground, and they turn into little burbs.
They're not birds because they're not quite what you'd expect out of birds.
They're like Ni no Kuni burbs. Like, if those burbs were put in the Ni no Kuni games, I'd be like, yeah, that tracks.
I was going to compare them to Prince.
To which I guess Ghibli vibes almost.
I was going to compare them to Prinnies, but...
Also fair. But then he hands them each a bottle, and they also loot adorably.
Like Prinnies.
Yeah. And then we go to a black screen, which then fades into the confrontation between Mapmaker and Hero. But we fade in specifically on Hero, but we also get the, like, eclipse symbol superimposed over him as it fades in.
And the eclipse symbol, like, as it zooms away from camera towards Hero...
Like, shrinks into his chest.
Shrinks right over his heart.
Yep.
And then this is the scene from the previous episode where Mapmaker shoves the map into Hero's chest and turns and walks away.
But this time, we follow Mapmaker, and she ends up in a tavern. That's what I assumed it was.
And we're an inn, or a bar.
Yeah, and she's just, she's doing that thing you do when you have a breakup. She's just going through all the shit that they have, and she's like, that's his shit, I don't want it.
And one of these things she finds in her bag, and I don't know, like, when they got it, or...
From the look she has, she doesn't know when they got it either. Also, there is one thing I want to mention before we get there. In the first establishing shot we have of the inn, there is a individual who looks to be in, like, a southern seersucker suit, white suit, pinstripes, hat, curly mustache, no facial features, and I just want to know what their story is. My brain just went, I like the character design. Give me more of them. I don't think I'm going to get them, but I want them. That is all.
So as she's going through the bag, she finds a bottle that has a floaty god symbol in it. I'm calling them god symbols.
Yeah, it's that little eye, which we've actually seen twice before this.
Oh, yes.
So my interpretation of the dining room scene initially, it didn't bother me because, like, we don't deal much with the gods, but Triangle God seemed to kind of be in charge. He was what kind of was like, hey, we're going to all meet up. We're all going to, like, settle down and eat now, because he, like, waved everyone and everyone's paid attention, which kind of makes sense with what I've seen, because when we see the outside of the Parthenon building, there's a giant triangle.
Also, the triangle is like a crown.
Yeah, almost. But there's a giant triangle on the outside of it above the doorway with some other symbols in it. And then there's this eye that we see in the bottle superimposed in the middle of that. And then when he was running that giant tablet in the weird cosmic background, had the same symbol as the outside of the Parthenon thing.
Fair enough. Anyways, she opens this bottle with a floaty eye in it.
And Bird Boy falls out.
And breaks his arm on the table.
I think it was already broken. Maybe. I don't know. But he just starts screaming in pain. But Burb screams.
The implication is that these birds... things were released by the god
to assumably catch this greed thing.
Even without knowing that, it had to be some time ago because, like,
yeah,
the bottle was something that Hero and Mapmaker acquired during the hijinks segment of their adventures.
Assumedly. I mean, technically, maybe she had it before him, but I don't know why she would be going to get rid of it if it wasn't related to him.
Fair, exactly.
But because the yelling of the Burb upsets everyone in the tavern, she takes him out into the stables to patch him up.
This is a very Family Guy-esque moment.
Yeah.
Burb is laying on the table, just rocking back and forth, screaming.
Yeah, and everyone's just like, what?
And everybody's just staring at the bird.
We spin a beat there. And then we cut to the stables where she is patching up his wing, tying it up. And then once they do that, he pulls out his bottle and kind of gestures to a statue of the hero that is there in town.
And she, like, shakes her head. She's like, no, you don't want anything to do with that dude because that dude sucks.
Yeah, basically.
And Burb is like, no, I do. And starts walking towards the hero, but is too injured and falls over. And so
she kind of sighs and then picks him up and carries him off the screen.
And as she's walking away from the statue of the hero, we get this dark entity behind the hero, and it's raining outside. So, like, between like the way the dark entity is positioned behind the hero and the rain, it looks like this entity is pulling puppet strings to control. So
the hero is posed holding his sword off to the side, like down in its sheath, and the other hand up, kind of like helling someone. And this thing has its arms posed, almost like it's controlling those arm movements. And then with the way the rain's drawn, because we're not drawing in drops, we're drawing in like the motion lines, it almost, like you said, looks like he's kind of puppeteering it because it's above him. Its arms are posed like it's controlling them.
And so this is all happening just after the fight between Hero and Mapmaker. And so once she walks off screen, we cut to the daytime later, and Burb is riding around on Mapmaker's back.
And they're venturing when he sees some other people. So he kind of just teleports into one of their backpacks and holds up a drawing he's done of Hero. Doesn't really ask about it, and they're all just like, what? And they seem disgusted and drop him.
Yeah, and so Mapmaker picks him back up and they go camping.
And we get a Burb Mapmaker montage, basically.
This is Burb and Mapmaker, the hijinks part of the episode.
Yeah. She's trying to make him feel better because he seems depressed, and they're hanging out, and he's currently healing.
And, like, there's a distinct character difference between Mapmaker and Hero and, like, the way they treat the world, because at one point there's, like, I don't even know how to describe it. He's got 4 little stick legs. And it's got like a chipmunk face.
It's like a chipmunk hedgehog with bamboo for legs.
And it comes up to the camp, and instead of like trying to shoo it off or kill it, which is definitely how Hero would handle it,
she gives it some food.
And so after her and Burb go to the river to bathe and they come back,
they're just surrounded by a fuck ton of them. And then Burb sneezes at a point, which transforms Mapmaker into a man.
Well, Burb doesn't have full control over his magical ability.
Yeah, but it's our first time we were seeing he has magical abilities.
No, it's not. We saw him like generating magical energy out of his belly while she was carrying him, and we also saw him teleport. So, like...
I mean, the teleport was it's an animation shortcut joke.
No, it's not.
I mean, maybe it's not for him.
No, Burb teleported.
But, so they're spending more time together, and as they're hanging out, they kind of just, seem to get closer. Burb manages to get his wing healed up.
And now, because he has both of his hands, both of his arms, his wing arms, he can do magic more effectively. So, with all of these little chipmunk things around the camp, he lifts his arms up, and they go shooting into the sky. Like, not like he launches them into the sky, but like their legs just start getting longer as they go straight up into the air.
And my assumption is it's part of their natural cycle to kind of grow like that, because they have like bamboo for legs, but he speeds it up. It's just how no idea. But so after he's healed, they shake hands, I guess?
Yeah, because Matt Baker's like, we're done. We don't need to be together anymore. And
they walk separate ways.
And then Burb turns around and goes, no, and runs after her.
And then he gets a vision of the hero wearing the helmet with the eyes.
Yeah, the Greed incarnated version
also,
of the hero.
There's another point where we saw him doing magic, and he was like making little like shapes of the hero.
Yeah.
Like, random images in his hand. But then after they continue on their own journey, they're sitting at a little blanket, watching the stars, when Burb has a fucking heart attack, basically.
So, you say that, but Burb's heart attack is intercut with images of the hero killing the gods.
Oh, you're just fucking slaughtering them.
And, like, as Hero brings down his sword on Triangle God, Burb's heart attack, like, goes into full effect.
And then we see because we haven't mentioned this, he has an eye on his stomach.
Yeah, because it was the eye inside the bottle, and then
But we see that kind of, like, particulate into magic, and then...
Well, no, because, like, not yet, because Matt Maker leans over him, and Burb, like, reaches up and touches her face, and then the eye particulate goes...
Yeah. And then she gets hit with it in the face, and now she has a floaty eye above her forehead. Her eyes go white, and she basically sees everything that's happened with the hero
since they departed from each other.
To now. And then the Burb
evaporates,
fades into the magical essence that he is to rejoin into the universe. Burb is not dead. I refuse to acknowledge this. He's just turned back into magic.
No, he rejoined the water cycle. He evaporated.
I guess also kind of magic. But then Mapmaker weeps for a moment, and then she holds her head up to the camera resolute, and we cut to a different scene, and she is now outside of the Parthenon-like building, which no longer has glowy light underneath it where it's in the clouds. Its steps no longer glow. In fact, I don't even know if it has steps anymore. If they are, they don't glow.
It still has steps. You can see them. They're just white now, and so like they blend in with the clouds. But she takes the steps up into the temple, passes through the mirror curtain, and doesn't get separated from darkness because Mapmaker doesn't have that darkness.
Maybe. Or maybe it's a whole god symbol thing. Who knows? But she walks in, and it's just filled with piles of treasure. And then she steps on the portrait of them that was drawn.
Yeah, so she steps on the torn picture of her and Hero.
Technically, she steps on her portion of the torn picture.
Yeah.
And then we see Hero in his chair, and he's super fucking great and old now. Which I don't know whether it's that she took so long to get there, or that through some form of whatever the fuck ended up happening with him in the Greed, he aged supernaturally.
Or time works differently in god places.
Yeah, that's also entirely possible.
But she sees on the throne, like you said, Hero, and she sees him holding the chest, and she walks forward and touches the chest.
Well, she crouches down to look through the keyhole, which has a red light emanating from it, a reddish orange light. And when she does, she sees what happens when this thing gets released.
Which, to me, between the vision that she had of Hero, implies that her god powers, like her god domain, is over like either prophecy or the ability to see the past and future.
Which I assume personally is a portion of the Triangle God's power, because the eye was inside the triangle shape that we see. He brings the Burbs to life. They have the symbol, and he seemed to be aware something was about to happen before he ran into the room with the Greed.
He knew something was going to happen.
So I assume it's a portion of his power. But when her vision, we see it get released. We see a bunch of heroes presumably standing up to it, and then it just anime laser beams them, and then we see it standing in fire.
And we zoom out on the world, and the entire thing is corrupted and purple.
It's purple and black with giant like veins of assumedly magma or weird magics. It looks like it's kind of crumbling in space.
And so once the vision ends, she's still looking at the chest, and a finger beckons her from the chest. It slides through the lock, and she kicks the finger of Greed back into the chest. And then
we see her sitting outside watching the sunrise, assumedly.
No, before that, she like gently pats
the
Hero on the arm.
And then she's sitting outside looking at what I assume is the sunrise. And then she stands up, straightens her back, and that's the end of the episode. And we get
credits rolling over a detailed version of the map.
A very detailed version of the map.
We see an ocean called Tolkon.
Yep, Tolkien.
And then we see an island.
Though I don't think it's an ocean because it's a pale bit, and I think the paler colors are supposed to be the land.
My bad. You're probably right.
But anyways, we see an X which is marked, and this is where we maybe get the hero's name because it says Alethrion's lair, and maybe that's the high god with the triangle, or it's the hero.
Spoiler, because of stuff outside of the episodes. Alethrion is the name of
the hero.
Well, the person we've been calling the hero, because one of the creators talks about how like Mapmaker has to live in a world where it's named after her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, it's like that's fucked, man.
Yeah,
which implies that after episode 2, we're gonna time skip assumingly pretty far into the future where people are just like this. But after the credits, we have a post-credit scene,
and it's a big hulking pill humanoid thing
hunched over eating some rats
in the woods.
Yep.
And then you hear something approaching it from behind, and so it snaps its head around.
And Mapmaker walks out in a nice new red scarlet cloak.
Oh, she's not Mapmaker anymore. She's now traveling deity.
Yeah.
She's obviously the traveling deity.
And she holds out her hand, and from it falls a golden amulet with the eye on it.
And that's the end of that. And then credits roll again, this time with a song and on a black background. Yep. And that ends the show.
Yep. So, after watching both episodes, what are your thoughts on Tales of Alethrion?
I like it. I like all the little stuff in it, like the bird and like the little chipmunk creatures.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little things I like in Tales of Alethrion.
Yeah.
I just wish the world was more revealing of itself, which would be easier if there was words and dialogue.
Fair. I also think part of that issue though is the fact that these first 2 episodes very much feel like
they're setting up
establishing of the world lore, like this is the history of the world.
And, like, I can't be like, oh, I wish it had dialogue, because that would change the entire show. It would be an entirely different thing then. I just wish I had more, like, knowledge of the world.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they can impart it without dialogue or on-screen text or, like...
Do you know how you get more knowledge of the world? You watch more of it.
I mean, I wish
I know what you mean.
I wish I had, like, background knowledge of the world. Like, Tales of Alethrion would do really good if it had the back cover of a book before I started watching it.
Oh, yeah, where it just, like, vaguely described the world, and you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, if it just had, like, 2 paragraphs on the back of a book before I started watching the show, much bigger hook. As it is,
Fair.
Because we went in blind, you as the listener don't have the same restrictions that we have. Our idea when we're coming to a show is we're approaching it with zero knowledge.
Like, hey, I stumbled across it on my fucking YouTube feed, which I did.
Yeah.
And then I clicked on it to see what it was about. And now do I watch more?
Because of that self-imposition, we don't have the background because that would flavor our review, right? Like, if we had this additional knowledge that isn't contained in the 2 episodes, it would flavor the review of those 2 episodes. That said, I would really like the background knowledge. Like,
I agree.
That would be the thing that I want most. If I went out and sought this background knowledge and then came back to it, I would be much more interested in watching more episodes.
Understandable, actually.
That's my full-on review of that episode. I wish I had more background knowledge to give me framework for the episode.
Okay. See, I think I would definitely watch more. And personally, I agree with the whole, like, it would be nice to know a bit more, but I think as it is, with the idea that this is kind of just, personally, it feels like it's just kind of establishing world lore. It almost feels like just more of a primer to the actual, like, story that it's going to try to tell me. So I kind of view these first 2 episodes, as you put it, as the back paragraph of the book.
Okay, I can see that.
So almost to me, I think, assumedly, like, I haven't seen it, episode 3 might be like more of like an actual first episode maybe, because this feels like it has set everything up. This is the primer that you're asking for, is kind of how I interpret it. It's a bit stretched out because we're telling a more personalized story to it.
Actually, can I?
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch another episode. They killed Burb.
Okay.
They killed Burb. That's that.
They did kill Burb, but he turned back into magic. Maybe he'll be back.
They killed Burb Justice.
Yeah, it does suck. I liked Burb, which is crazy because he was on screen for like 8 minutes, but Burb.
He was on screen for 8 minutes, but he magically sneezed and turned a woman into a man.
With a very nice beard and good defined like arm musculature. Like, yeah.
He could teleport, and he made the chipmunk things grow really big.
Yeah.
Really tall, not big.
He also ate a snow cone.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that, but they get snow cones.
No, Burb, I will probably watch more of this eventually.
Yeah.
I looked into the game. This isn't a review of the show, so if you like what you've heard about the show, I'm going to go watch it. Go watch it. Show was good.
It does a very good job, which is the main reason why I wanted to kind of review this. It does a very good job of showing you what you need to kind of know the story, to experience what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important because, like, there were moments where we talked about, like, yeah, like, the greed kind of seems to go over his heart. Or, like, yeah, you would... I think part of it is, by not having dialogue, you're kind of forced to pay more attention to things than you normally would.
Yeah, my phone doesn't like that.
Fair. But, like, if you're actively watching it, like, so many times you could just be like, oh, there's an evil shadow behind the guy. Obviously, it's, like, the classic big bad in the background. But, like, with the way it's posed, it does, especially because they're in, read as, like, kind of puppeteering him. Which, yeah, we don't need that much detail to kind of get, like, big controlling bad. But, like, it works so well and in such a kind of nuanced, like, little way that you don't need it to be that specific, but it's very nice that it is. is.
Now, what I'm going to say about the tabletop board game is it looks like somebody created the rules for an RPG, realized, oh, this is very linear.
Yeah.
And so they made it a board game. And so it's based on everything I've read about the board game and looked at the board game, it feels very much like Babby's first D&D in rules and mechanics.
Which can be fine, but
I just don't think that for the price that they're selling it for, it's worth it based on what I've seen of the board game. Although the only review that's available for it on Board Game Geek is somebody who kickstarted it, was really excited about it, and is obviously in love with it.
Yeah.
So
like it doesn't look horrible. It just doesn't look great either, in my opinion. It looks fine.
I think it's $75.
Yeah. It looks like a good introduction to role-playing games rather than a good board game.
That's it. They also have a role-playing game, which...
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
I don't know anything about that.
But the board game, in my opinion, looks like a good introduction to role-playing games.
There's also a card game. That said, there is one really neat thing about the board game.
Yep. It gives you the names for characters.
There's two really neat things about the board game. One, it gives you the names of characters.
Yeah.
And two, you can decide how long a campaign of that game is going to last based on there's a starting position on the board, like a starting slate, and there's an ending slate on the board.
I assume the ending slate is Lethrion's Lair.
It's one of the possible ending slates.
Okay.
And then you can choose between like 3 and 7 slates to put in between there.
Yeah.
And like each slate tells part of your story as you progress to the final boss.
Okay.
And so by doing, and each slate, like they're not locked in order. So like it randomizes the story as you play, like what events happen.
Yeah.
So in that, it has a nice inbuilt randomizer, and it does have an ability to like change the gameplay length. And those are cool things. And also, you can recruit more heroes as you play, so you're not just playing as one character. Like you can create a party.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, there's cool things about it. I saw the price and I was like, for what this game is, it's very much like a Dungeons and Dragons.
Honestly, the biggest thing that put me off from it, it's because I was intrigued by the fact that it was a board game. I did look at like the little Kickstarter video they had for it. There's no insert anywhere in that box.
Oh yeah, the box is just a blank white box.
It hurts my soul. I need an insert, please. It doesn't have to be a good insert. Give me an insert.
That said, the show, good. The music for the show,
the music's actually so fucking fantastic.
We didn't actually talk about the music very much.
Yeah.
But like from the start to finish of every episode, the music is amazing. Specifically because I think it has to be.
Yeah, because it is carrying the majority of your soundscape. Sure, you have some efforts here and there.
It's also doing a lot of the emotional weight.
Yes, because like we start the show with like the drips for the sound effects, then we kind of go into like a dark kind of choral hymnish chant, and then like our montages are lighthearted. So we have lighthearted music there, and it works. And then we creep into like kind of a foreboding but like drudge of music as we get deeper and deeper into the hero's journey up until the Parthenon bit. So yeah,
I think there's a lot of good things to like about the show. It's got like quote unquote 2 full seasons now.
I believe so, yeah. And I think it's talked about. I think the third one's just been Kickstarter, or they've talked about doing it somewhere, something like that.
So if you're interested in the show, looking to maybe finding out if there's a Kickstarter going for season 3 if you like the show.
Yeah,
I think that's all we really have.
Yeah.
Before we end though, remember when I talked about the ring and went on that tangent about how it all takes place in AI?
Yeah.
Feel free to cut that when editing, but if you do, leave this part specifically in.
Yeah?
Yes, please.
But if I leave it in, cut this part?
Yeah.
I'm doing neither of those. Both parts are staying in. You can't make me do a fucking thing.
You're ruining me.
You can't make me do anything.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you can't. I'm my own fucking person, and
Welcome
I'm
to
the one
Copilots, the podcast where we review not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows don't have the best titles, but when you're in that second chance, like just... Why?
Brainwashing.
Anyways, we should close out the episode.
If you would like to contact us or support us, you can do so in a variety of ways.
Yeah, you can find us on Blue Sky at Copilots Review.
That's the one I was trying to remember. You can find us on X, the app formerly known as Twitter that has been turned into a hellscape by one Elon Musk at Copilots Review.
Elon Musk and Nazis. I get they are very much the same in-group, but...
Don't give all the credit to one man.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find us there at Copilots Review as well. That's also our handle on YouTube and our email at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
Yep. And we'll also have links to our Discord and our Patreon and our YouTube and all that stuff on the website. You can find it. You're assumingly probably already there. Actually, why did I say that? You're probably listening through some third-party thing that's not the website we use.
I don't even use the website when I want to listen back to our episodes.
Yeah, no.
I just plug the feed into Podcast Addict.
Yeah.
But our website is copilotsreview.simplecast.com.
Anyways, though, thank you for flying with us. And please, fly again soon.